Welcome to another episode of the TFD Performance Podcast. Myself, Lauren Nash, along with Geordie Sullivan, are jumping on the podcast to squash the notion that healthy eating is expensive and prove that you can still eat healthy on a budget. With the current increasing rise of cost of living, we thought it would be a great chance to talk about some money-saving nutrition hacks. Hey Geordie, welcome back. How you going?
Yeah, doing very well, thanks, Loz.
That's good. I'm on a spinny chair today, so I feel this is going to be a huge distraction.
I feel like Loz needs to get a bit more enthusiastic with her intros. I think I keep throwing her on the spot and she gets caught up.
For the first 20, it was great, but now I think the novelty's worn off and I've just, I'm not good under pressure anymore.
Just crumbling, but that's okay. We'll work on it. What are we talking about today? What are we going over?
Something that we're going to be talking about is, because it comes up a lot, I know, with clients, friends, family members, social media, is the whole notion that healthy eating is expensive.
Yeah, very cool topic. I think most people, even if even if you are pretty well off or whatever, even I have fighters who make hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, and we still have this conversation, right? Like no one wants to waste money, no one wants to waste food. And I think you don't really get taught it anyway. Like I didn't, at least. I never got taught this at school. Like how do you put together like a food budget, or how do you figure out a way of eating where you've got like minimal waste and you're saving money? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're Bill Gates or you're, whoever, like no one should be wasting food, and you should be getting the most out of your money when it comes to eating food. So this would be a really cool episode that everyone could take some good points from.
Definitely. And I think, regardless if cost is a factor for you or not, who doesn't like saving money?
Yeah, exactly. So what's the first thing we're going on about?
Well, I think, kind of where does that whole notion of healthy eating expensive come from? And I think it comes from, how you perceive healthy eating to be. I think social media is a huge impact with all this, because they're always promoting, all these beautiful poke bowls, side bowls, all these, 5-star kind of meals. You've got, you walk down the supermarket and you don't feel inclined to buy anything unless it's got organic or GMO free or vegan, gluten free, paleo on the label. So, trying to fall for all those kind of hype words as well. And then people often associate health with, having a cupboard full of supplements and vitamins. And if that's how you perceive health to be, then of course it's expensive. I think people forget that health can also be frozen veggies and some rice. It doesn't have to be, gluten-free, organic superfood goji berries. So I think, obviously everyone's own perception of what, one, healthy eating, and two, what expensive or not is can definitely dictate your kind of view of how eating should be and the cost.
Yeah, on a recent trip, I went away with, we always go away with different teams, but one of the guys on the team, I won't say who, is very much into keeping everything organic and loves like the healthy label. And I went shopping with him and seeing the difference in cost of like products that I would just normally buy, and like it wouldn't really bother me too much if it was in quote unquote the healthy aisle or not, because
Yeah.
And the difference in price when he racked up his bill compared to when I put the groceries through for whatever I was buying, I was just thought, oh my God, like imagine doing that every single time that you shop over the course of a year. That would be so much money that you're putting away, literally just trying to fit this idea of like, oh yes, I'm eating healthy.
Yeah. And, before, we were having this chat as well, I was kind of just having a look to see kind of what the internet says and everything, because I get a lot of clients ask, oh, do I have to buy organic or is organic better? And I think at the end of the day, if you can, afford to spend an extra $20 on an organic jug of milk, you know what I mean, go for it. But the health benefits aren't necessarily there for me in terms of the, cost benefit analysis. And I saw this quote, and it was the perception that organic food delivers more health benefits than conventional food sells billions of dollars worth of food every year. However, the nutritional benefits of organic food are minimal, and you aren't guaranteeing that your food is free from harmful chemicals despite the organic label.
Yeah, this is a really sensitive point for a lot of people, right? And I have this discussion with a few friends of mine, and I think out of the gate, you need to say like the intentions are fantastic. Like I think if your intentions are to, reduce waste, if you want less agriculture and less harm to the environment and everything, that is absolutely good. And you're looking out for animal welfare. That's very commendable. But I think facts are facts, right? And when it comes down to the facts of nutritional value, there really is no difference. Like you see that time and time again in studies. It's such a big misconception that people think because something is labeled organic that it's inherently healthier or more nutritious than the conventional option. And that's just not the case. I know that's going to rub some people the really, really wrong way, but at the end of the day, facts are facts, and that's just what we know to be true.
I agree with you. Yeah. And I love, again, it's, it's the same with plant-based eating or kind of ethical eating. I love the reason behind it. But when it comes to organic produce, I sometimes think, oh, you're really throwing your money away here. Because at the end of the day as well, if you are eating for health or you're on a diet, so to speak, 100 calories of an organic apple is going to be 100 calories of a non-organic apple. Maybe it does or doesn't have pesticide on it. But at the end of the day, the nutritional content and the nutritional makeup of the product is still the same.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the point that you made earlier is that just because it says it on the label doesn't necessarily mean it to be completely true. And I think the more I've gotten into the business side of the food world and see how marketing plays such a huge role, like I've seen that so much, right? Like, and you see these like cage-free eggs or whatever it is, or organic eggs, and then you actually see the conditions that those chickens will live in, and it's like, wow, that's really not that much better, and it's not, well, at least not as great as what you're trying to make it out to be, or trying to make it look through your marketing. So again, very commendable if that's you and that's something you're very passionate about. Absolutely. Like Loz said, if you can afford to buy the organic milk or the organic eggs or whatever, by all means do it. I think we do have to call a spade though, and draw the line where we have to.
Yeah. And, it's not even organic. It's the things, they call them health halos, where marketing companies will really pull on one aspect of the product to try and sell it as gluten-free or vegan because, it attracts those vulnerable populations that think, oh my gosh, okay, it's got that word on it, it must be healthier. And I mean, this is my life day in, day out. I call it the celiac tax. So anything that's gluten-free is at least 70% more expensive. And, for someone that's not celiac, they would be wasting, say, an extra 50% probably on their grocery bills by buying a product they perceive as healthier when it's not. It's just more expensive. It's so funny, every time I walk down the granola aisle, I just want to find a nice gluten-free granola, but gluten-free granola is maybe $10 for a 200-gram pack, as opposed to say $3 for a 500-gram bag of non-gluten-free. So as well, unless you need to follow one of those dietary restrictions, or you have a preference, again, the gluten containing or the non-vegan product is going to be just as good and also not as ridiculously expensive.
Yeah, funnily enough, I actually had this conversation only a few hours ago with some people, very similar topic, but I think the crux of the issue when you talk about all of this really boils down to one thing, and it's just a misunderstanding or a lack of knowledge. And that's not saying that, we're not saying, hey, you're silly because you don't know this. It's not openly available information, and marketing companies do a fantastic job at keeping a lot of information hidden from you. And the discussion I was having was a person talking about genetically modified foods and saying, no, you can't eat GMO, it's so bad, you got to eat organic. Funnily enough, they were eating a banana, like a regular banana, and that was obviously an organic banana. And I said to him, do you think that is how a banana looks in nature? Like many, many years ago when a banana first appeared on this earth, and do you think that's the product that came out? And they said, yeah, absolutely. Like, this is organic. And funny enough, like that banana that you buy in the supermarket, that's not a naturally occurring banana. Bananas aren't meant to look like that. They've been made to look like that for agricultural ease, like to make more of them and to increase the yield and everything else. And they were blown. They were like, no way. And you'd be surprised how many fruit and veg are like that. For certain apples that you absolutely love have been genetically modified. And I think everyone just gets this tag, like when you hear genetically modified, like a Frankenstein type thing. And like I even said to him, I was like, look at your dog. Like their dog was this little thing. And I said, do you think that thing would have lasted through the test of natural selection? No way. No way that thing would have lasted, but it still exists and there's nothing wrong with him. Like it's fine, but it's like, it's just incomplete information. And it's almost like you like it when it works for whatever prerogative that you're pushing, but when it comes to other things, you put your blinders up. And I'm not saying that you're silly or it's stupid or anything. It's just, if you're going to call a spade, you have to call a spade and apply it to everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel all I'm thinking about now is, obviously I don't know what dog you're talking about, but I just have this weird visual in my head right now. And I think that's that's going to stay with me for the rest of the day. But
Anyway.
obviously we'll talk about some, little money saving hacks, but talking about, ugly products and everything. It, in the supermarket now, they sell, what's it called, the odd bunch or something. It's kind of the reject objects that people wouldn't want to buy because they're not perfect. And talking on the back of the GMO products, it's like, we have been conditioned to only accept things, in this one shape or form, and anything that doesn't look like that is odd.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. And I think, again, it just comes back to having a good understanding, like, what does genetically modified mean? And I think a lot of people don't even realize what that means. Like, it's not like that's a crazy thing where you're going in and you're changing the gene and then everything. I think everyone just has this perception, like, if you do that, it's going to give everyone cancer and whatnot. It's like, geneticists are pretty smart. Like, a lot of what we know the modern world to be has come because we've been able to genetically modify things in every industry, but anyway, we digress. Let's get back to talking about these healthy eating habits.
Yeah, and you know what though, Geordie, I think that's a really good point, because you said it comes from a lack of knowledge that people will make these decisions about food. And with everything, whether it's the way we dress, the way we eat, where we choose to live, all of those decisions that we make are caused by so many factors. And some of those factors are, yes, our knowledge, our health literacy, cost, food access, all of these things. So it is still good having these chats, because at the end of the day, I think a lot of people don't realize how many external factors influence their decision to buy a product at the supermarket. So if you're listening to this, it could be your peers, could be your family, could be, societal norms, your culture, access, finance, all these things do at the end of the day dictate how you choose to eat, and also how you're able to eat. But I think as well, when it comes to that whole perception of healthy eating is expensive, it does come back as well to, okay, well, how much do you value nutrition, or how much, are you willing to kind of invest, so to speak, in yourself? Because for me, I wouldn't spend hundreds of dollars on an Xbox because I don't really value gaming. However, I'd be happy to spend, a decent amount on my groceries because I really value the food that I put into my body. So again, it comes back to, okay, well, if you value your nutrition, or you really value organic food, then you're totally fine with spending X amount on that every week. So it also comes back to, okay, how you perceive, healthy eating, or the importance that has in your life will also dictate how expensive you think it is, or how much you're willing to kind of invest, so to speak, in that aspect of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a good point, right? And I think on the other side of that coin, the fact of the matter is, and I think right now, like, we're in the middle of, economic inflation. I think a real reality where you can have all the best intentions ever. There are situations where people literally can't afford to go buy all these big brand names, right? And they're just working with what they've got. And I think even if you are well-intentioned and you do value eating really healthy, there are barriers. And I think it's ridiculous to think that they don't exist. And, we see it with our clients, and I'm sure at stages of our lives, like, we're all students at one stage. We would have had to, budget and make sure that we're getting good, students. When we're learning about nutrition, you have to budget and make sure that you're, following these principles. But how do I do that when I'm getting pennies on the dollar every week, and then doing it? So
so it's being resourceful and making the most of what you've got. So I reckon let's get into it. So given that our podcast is about pretty much healthy eating on a budget, but some good money saving hacks when it comes to food shopping. I think one of the first ones is, if we're talking about when you're doing your shopping, is trying generic brands or home brand versions of your favorite brand name products, because chances are they probably come out of the same factory, they're going to taste the same, and obviously they're going to be cheaper. I mean, don't get me wrong, some home brand products are an absolute no-go, but for things such as flour, rolled oats, pasta, those types of things as well, pantry staples, you're going to be saving money, and I'm sure there's not much of a taste difference. So that's just one of the easiest ways to save money. And again, if we're talking about the supermarket, is explore different supermarkets, depending on what country you're from. I'm just going to speak for Australia, but we've got, Aldi, Coles, Woolies, IGA, we've got independent stores, we've got farmers markets, shop around and see where you think you can get the best kind of variety, value, all those things as well, because I know you can be loyal to one or the other, but sometimes shopping around can always help.
Yeah, I think on that point too, I don't want to sound like we're bashing people because they want to like shop at boutique or go to a farmer's market, but like the fact of the matter is it's much cheaper to go to these big things. And I recently was overseas and got my ear chewed off by someone for supporting big corporations or something along those lines. But it's like, again, it's fine to take that stance when we've got like thick wallet and deep pockets and you afford to do all this. But if you're in the situation where, okay, I need to watch my money, or, I've got other things I need to spend it on, and I've only got this much on my budget for food, yeah, look around, shop around and swap between those big brand ones, right? Like swap between Aldi, Coles, Woolworths, like they all do different deals. And like, if need, you go to a different couple ones to get certain products and look out for specials. Like, it's absolutely fine doing that. You don't have to, like Loz says, you don't have to be going and having farmers market food or organic health food to be eating healthy. You can do that perfectly fine shopping at these bigger stores.
Definitely. And you'll still find that every single supermarket now has a really great range of health food products, if that's more your jam. And big name supermarkets also stock organic produce. So you can still have the best of both worlds whilst saving a little bit of cost. Another one in terms of, when you are shopping is, prioritize in-season produce. I know we're just kind of bagging farmers markets, but when products are in season, they're at their freshest, the highest nutritional value and most affordable as well. So, shopping with what's in season as well is a great way as well to kind of get good fresh produce and also save money again.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I think this next point is really important. I think this is something I found when I was traveling, and again, dead broke when I was traveling. Straight after I finished university, had $0 to my name and pretty much had $10 or so to spend on food. Buying in bulk and freezing was one of the best skills that I learned. The thing is like, you do need a little bit of like cooking literacy with this, like learning how to cook rice or vegetables in bulk. And I absolutely implore, if you're listening to this, learn how to do that. Buy a book, watch some YouTube videos, because in the long run, it saves you so much money and time. Like, it saves you so much money and time making things in bulk and being able to freeze them and just pull them out whenever you need them.
Yep. And it's also, a time saver as well, because you get home from work late or you have a late training session. I find this with so many, especially with our combat guys, they train early in the morning and then they back it up with a pretty long evening session, getting home sometimes at 9:30, 10 p.m. Oh, thank gosh, earlier in the week, me already made something, put it in the freezer, and bam, I've got something. So it saves money and time being able to do that. And yeah, as you mentioned, you do need a little bit of cooking literacy, especially with food safety when it comes to reheating and storing products. But again, we'll be able to cover you with that with a future adventure of ours. But yeah, and then I suppose when you are cooking, protein I find can be quite an expensive portion of a meal, generally speaking. So you can always get creative and kind of, plant-based, so to speak, and incorporating things such as lentils or beans or TVP, which is texturized vegetable protein, in those meals to try and, one, increase volume, get a different source of protein in, and also you get more fiber, you get more nutrients as well. But ultimately, you're kind of doubling the bulk, but only having to get, say, half a serve of protein. And if you think, okay, you're doing chili con carne or something, you got your mince, and then you could always like add lentils or beans or something. So it's just a great way as well to get more nutrients into your diet.
Yeah, absolutely. And the next point I think is really, really good. And this is a combo I have all the time with clients, is fresh versus frozen.
Yeah, because I think obviously depends what it is. I definitely prefer some things frozen to some things fresh, but frozen is just as good, if not better, than fresh in terms of nutrient composition, because generally things are frozen immediately after being harvested. And sometimes if you are buying fresh produce, who knows how long it's been in the back of a truck for. So to be honest, sometimes, frozen is probably actually going to be better for you in terms of nutrient value than frozen. And also you don't have to worry about it, going off in the crisper because you forgot about it. And then ultimately that $10 you spent on the lettuce during the COVID pandemic went down the toilet, as opposed to, say, having something in the freezer that could stay in there for as long as you need. But I find the biggest thing with this is berries, because I have so many frozen berries in my life. And if I used only fresh blueberries from the supermarket, I would probably be broke.
Yeah, berries are the best example of that. Hey, and I think it's like, I tell this to all my clients, right? And they're almost shocked. Like it's shocking to a lot of people, but it makes that point, right? That like marketing and the way that we perceive things and all of these external factors really do influence what we perceive as healthy, right? Like in our minds, it's very easy to rationalize. Yeah, of course, frozen is going to be just as good, if not better. Like you think about the nutrient composition of vegetables, and then how that decays over time, and the chemical process that happens when you're decaying in a room, even a cool to room temperature room, what happens. But then you stop all of those processes when you freeze lock it, when you just snap freeze it and you lock it in, and then all the nutrients are locked in. Like, so for me and you, it makes perfectly logical sense. But it's crazy, isn't it, when you say this to people in the general public that don't have as much knowledge in the nutrition field, and they look at you like you have two heads. Like, no way. There's no way that that frozen product can be just as good as the fresh one. And again, it's the way all these factors are presented to us in supermarkets and even cultural norms of, yeah, we perceive this to be healthy and this not to be healthy. And again, it comes back to that knowledge base, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, obviously we're talking about in this podcast how healthy eating is expensive. Another thing is, if I want to make a healthy meal, it's so time consuming and it's hard and it has to be really fancy. If you're using, frozen fruit and veg, one, it's healthy. Two, it's super easy as well. And I think people often think, okay, if it's healthy, it's got to be kind of fancy, it's got to look good. But there's so many, I think, misconceptions about what a healthy diet is or what a healthy meal is, because healthy does not always have to be expensive, time consuming, elaborate. If it doesn't fit on Instagram, it's not healthy, kind of a thing. So yeah, frozen versus fresh is a good battle to have. But yeah, I'm for either.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good point. We keep banging on about it, but it's something that's worth mentioning, because I feel like once you know it, it is like a weight lifted off your shoulder, right? Like, I feel like so many people get bombarded with the extremes of this. So like the extreme health nuts, like real extreme health nuts that would never put anything that's been in a packet in their mouth, do all of these things. And this is another conversation I had about like the processing of food. And I had to tell this person, like, you can't eat anything that's like been in a packet or gone through any processing. And it's like, well, for 99.9% of people, that means that they just wouldn't be able to eat any food, period. Like any food, period, unless you live on an ag farm and you've got access to your, homegrown rice and a vegetable garden and fresh fruit, and you've got animals that you can use to get protein. There's probably a very, very high chance, no matter how fresh or organic you're getting, that there's been some degree of processing to get it. Even if you're getting organic things that come in a packet, that means they've gone through some degree of processing to get there. And this, again, it's these extremes, these people at the extremes that really shout this message at you that almost make you feel bad, right? Like, you're like, oh, do I have to do it? And you second guess it. I think what sets a lot of people free and puts that weight off their shoulder is just this knowledge and understanding. No, it's fine. Like, it's absolutely fine to do that. Again, if it's in your budget, that's okay. You can do that. And you can absolutely eat these types of foods that aren't labeled organic or aren't buying off the health art, and you can be perfectly healthy.
Mm-hmm. I think this could be a good discussion to have next week in terms of the whole process, the process discussion, because I have it very often, especially when we're talking about sports nutrition, gels, muesli bars, those types of things. Anyway, we'll save that. But I think that would be a good discussion to have, because yeah, it gets demonized, and I think a lot of people are scared about it or think that's not health.
Yeah. I think, that's actually, you save it, right? And I think it's a funny one, and I'll give a tidbit for what this one is. Yeah, because I was planning on having this because I saw a post from someone put this up and just demonizing every little ingredient that was in like a muesli bar or something. And it's like, well, try and show me a diet where someone eat 8,000 calories worth of completely clean foods, and I'll show you the most constipated human on planet Earth. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to be logistic. And like, it's a game of inches, right? It's like how many wrongs make a right. Like, you've got athletes that are doing everything possible. They're sleeping, they're getting natural sunlight, like they're eating consistently, they're drinking lots of water, they're exercising every single day. Like, is that all going to be dismounted because they're eating this one muesli bar? Or, where does the weight of health come in, and how much, does each player contribute to this game? So we'll have that conversation next week. But I think this is a really cool episode. I think very simple hacks that you can do, very simple things. I think the biggest takeaway that I want people to take from this, because everything we said, you already knew. Everyone that's listening to this, everything we said, you already know. I think if you can let yourself go of this whole almost guilt tripping when you're not going down the healthy aisle, you're not eating organic, and you're like, oh, I can't do it, I'm not eating, I wish I could afford to eat that, but I can't, so I have to get this brand name thing. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. And if there's one thing I want you to take away, is you can eat very healthy by not going down the organic aisle or not going to the farmer's market. If you can, and you can afford that, that's great, but you don't have to.
Definitely. And I think, I suppose it probably seems obvious, but we're going to remind you anyway, is that meal prepping meals instead of buying your lunches or your dinners every single day is going to be the biggest, have the biggest impact in terms of, if you are listening to this podcast, you think, yeah, going to do all these things. Even if you do all the things we're talking about and then you still go and buy your lunches every day, you may as well have not had listened to this in the first place, because being prepared and setting yourself up kind of for success earlier in the week with, as you mentioned, cooking in bulk and freezing. When you have that there, it's saving, $10, $15, $20 a day on food. And I think a really good way to look at it is, we all have Spotify subscriptions, we've all got gym memberships, we've got whatever you choose to pay for, right? So think Spotify, what's that, say $15 a month or something. If you start to look at, okay, so say I'm spending $50 a week on meals out, oh my gosh, I'm pretty much, $200 a month subscription on dining out. When you look at it that way, I think how much money that is adding up every single year. That doesn't even include, your coffees or anything else. And obviously, I love eating out. Eating out is amazing. It's fun. There's always a time and place for it. But, when you're doing it every single day, and then you're also complaining, oh crap, eating healthy is so expensive. It's come back to, okay, well, there's probably some strategies here that you could have implemented to prevent you from getting to this place. And then who cares? Spend all that money you would have saved on a really nice dinner at the end of the week, or or a vacay at the end of the year. It's it's just being a bit realistic here, and again coming back to your priorities, and if you do value your health and your time, you'll probably put a little bit of extra effort in at the beginning of the week to prevent this from happening. But yeah, I think as well, sorry to anyone out there that drinks caramel lattes, but when you add a syrup to your coffee, you're just wasting $1 every time, and you're ruining a good coffee. So I don't know.
Take that caramel latte. Yeah, I think on that point, before we finish up, people prioritize what they value. And when it comes to being healthy, quote unquote, or having healthy habits in your life, consistency is absolutely key. And I think the very first thing anyone can do, unless you're like me or you, Loz, where, we have access to a kitchen every single day. So we can cook like every single meal that we want, whenever we want throughout the day. And because most people aren't in that situation. If you want to get on this health train and start being the healthiest version of yourself, it starts with consistency. And that starts with prepping your meals, whether you like it or not. Meal prepping at least one meal so you can have that consistent intake and start building these good habits. That's going to be absolute ground zero. It's the first thing we take all our clients through. If you are listening, that get in the habit of it. It can be hard, it can be daunting, especially if you're not a great cook. Start simple, build your way up, but you will definitely notice a difference. If you do start taking meal prep seriously, you'll notice a difference in your health habits, and you'll notice a difference in your bank account. So I can't recommend it more to people.
Yeah, it's not only about the financial side, it's also your performance benefits and overall health, and also just general, saving time. So no, totally agree.
All right, Loz, I think we'll wrap that one up. But until next time, hey?
Sounds good. Ciao, Geordie.